The ramifications of what Israel is doing has obviously spilled over well beyond the Gaza was called an enclave, but that part of Palestinian territory. And now there is increasing tensions around the Red Sea, with Yemen's Ansar Allah getting really deep in waging a blockade that's been pretty successful to this point in response to what's happening in Gaza. But of course, there's more with Hezbollah, and there have been, I feel like there's been more and more tensions regionally. And Israel is talking about trying to get the U.S. to help them push Hezbollah back along the border. Help us make sense of the regional ramifications and where this is going as we enter 2024.
Well, first of all, let's reflect back on Nasrallah's speech that he gave, I think, on October 9th, 2 days after. And I call it the escalation management speech. And because everybody's expecting Hezbollah to jump in and join the fight. And Hezbollah basically said, we're in, but our way. We're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it that way, because how is Israel going to be strategically defeated here? Israel set the parameters of victory being the destruction of Hamas. I think Larry and I agree. Hamas has won. They're not going to be destroyed. So Israel's already lost this war. Plus, if you're Hezbollah, your goal is the creation of a Palestinian state. So you got to keep the whole world's focus on that problem set, and it's working against Israel. The whole world is rallied behind it. The last thing you want to do is expand this conflict, because now suddenly the Palestinian issue is not the only issue. In fact, it's going to be put on the back burner as you deal with bigger regional issues like war with Iran. That's a bigger problem set than the Palestinian issue. So you don't want to expand this conflict. So you've seen a lot of escalation management, but it's been done very cleverly. Hezbollah, for not wanting to get involved, has tied down one half of the Israeli Navy, 1/3 of the Israeli Air Force, 1/4 of the Israeli Army. They forced 70,000 people to be displaced out of northern Israel, putting a huge burden on the Israeli economy. And they're just humiliating the Israelis on a daily basis on the border. And here's the thing. You think Hamas has tunnels. Hezbollah has tunnels, better tunnels, deeper tunnels, longer tunnels. You know that tunnel that the Israelis dug up? It's amazing. Right at I think it's the Eretz crossing. And suddenly 400 meters from the crossing, how far along are we? 70 some odd days in this conflict. And they go, oh my God, the biggest tunnel imaginable that you can literally drive a car through is right here. Wait a minute. You guys didn't find that tunnel until now? That tunnel is small compared to the tunnels that Hezbollah has carved into northern Israel. When the time comes, Hezbollah will seize northern Israel. There's nothing the Israelis can do to stop it. They will take Kiryat Shimona. They will take other towns. They will take the Galilee. Israel can't stop them. But Hezbollah doesn't want to do that right now. Hezbollah has let it be known that they can do that, and they will do that if called upon. And this is why you're seeing Israel hesitate, because you've got all the chest thumping guys saying we need to go in and kick Hezbollah's butt. Israel proved that they can't kick Hezbollah's butt. They tried it in 2006. Didn't work. Hezbollah has gotten even better. They've become combat hardened with a decade plus experience in Syria. So there's nothing the United States can do. What, you think American pilots and American airplanes dropping American bombs are going to do a better job than Israeli pilots and American airplanes dropping American bombs? No. First of all, our pilots aren't that good anymore. We just don't train that well. Training is expensive. When was the last time we did a real honest to God, air attack against somebody with an integrated air defense, or somebody has the potential of doing that?
Yeah.
Not in a long time. Our pilots don't know how to fight. And so we'd be going through a learning curve that'd be unreal. And then we'd get humiliated because it's not stopping anything. And you think Americans, when Hezbollah moves into northern Israel, you think Americans are going to drop bombs on Kiryat Shimona? You think Americans are going to drop bombs on Israel? Ain't going to happen. See, Hezbollah isn't going to sit in southern Lebanon and let the fight come to them. Hezbollah is going to take the fight to northern Israel. And now the Israelis are going to have to bomb their own cities, bomb their own people. America will stay out of that fight because we are not going to bomb Israel. Hezbollah's thinking. They know this. If I know this, Israel knows this. America knows this. That's why I'm not too worried about an expansion of the fight, because Israel knows they'll just get, I was going to use a bad word, they'll get beat up. Now we come to the Houthi. You know, this is very rude of me, but every time when I think of the Houthi, I just think of, you know, some wild dudes from Mad Max, you know, you know, just yelling charge and go, because they just sort of on October 19th they just appeared. The Houthi just woke up and said, "Screw it, launch!" And everybody's like, "What the heck just happened?" The Houthi just fired on Israel. Did that really happen? Houthi, hell yeah, that happened. We're going to do it again. Launch, launch, launch. And then they say, "Screw it, take a ship, fly helicopters out there, take everybody." Go, "What the hell's going on? What are the Houthi doing?" And then the Houthi just say, "We're going to shut it all down," and they have. They've effectively closed the man. I can't say the word. The Man El Bab Straits. That little narrow piece of water between Yemen and Djibouti. You know, they've shut it down. The Red Sea, you can't go to the Suez Canal right now because the Houthi have shut it down. And now America's going, what do we do? So we're moving a fleet down, and we're realizing we can't do anything. Now, the big news isn't that America can't beat the Houthi. I mean, we can't. And we're not going to. To secure those straits, we'd have to put 40,000 Marines on the ground. We don't have 40,000 Marines to put on the ground. We can't get 40,000 Marines there. And once we get them on the ground, we can't sustain it. There's 100,000 plus Houthi out there. We ain't going to beat them. Saudi Arabia's been trying since 2014 using American planes with American bombs, using American intelligence. Hasn't worked. The Houthi can destroy Saudi Arabia's oil production capacity. That's one big thing here that's causing everybody to hit pause on that. Saudi Arabia is like, you guys are going to do what to the Houthi? Pause, 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 please pause, because they're going to blow up the Aramco oil fields, and we don't want that to happen. The United Arab Emirates going, wait a minute, you're going to do what? No, we don't want to have anything with that either. Pause, 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 because they don't want to lose their oil production capacity either. So America's sitting there going, But here's the big story. It's not about that strait. You know how America has been saying for decades, we guarantee that the Strait of Hormuz will be open? That Iran will never shut it down. That if Iran ever tries to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the American Fifth Fleet will keep it open. That's just been proven to be a lie. Yeah. Because we can't beat the Houthi, and we damn sure aren't going to beat the Iranians. What this proves is that America's fleet, all of its, dozen, aircraft carrier battle groups, can't do anything. Yeah. It's a waste of money, total waste of money. We have to be careful about getting sunk, losing a carrier. As Larry said, I'm an American taxpayer. Okay, so I got the USS Carney out there, the Aegis class, Arleigh Burke class destroyer. It's got 90 missiles, SM-2s, SM-6s, other things out there. And each one of them runs between $1.1 and $4 million each, depending on which missile you use. The Houthi have thousands of these drones and cheap missiles. They cost them $2,000, $5,000, maybe $10,000 for the good stuff. And the Houthi are just sitting there again. The guy from Mad Max, no! And they're going to launch these things, and the Carney's going to go detected, launch, shot, detected, launch, shot, detected, and now they're done. They fired off 90. And as Larry said, they don't have the tenders anymore. You can't bring up the ship that goes resupply in. They got to pull the Carney out. And then who's going to replace the Carney? Some other funky named ship that's going to fire off 90 missiles and have to go, and another one and go. There's only so many, missile destroyers in a carrier battle group. And when they deplete this stuff, the carrier's got to go because it can't stay there. Something's going to hit the carrier. And now here's the other thing. What have the Ukrainians been using that's driving the Russians crazy in the Black Sea? The underwater drones. The underwater drones. Well, Russia captured some of them. And I don't know if you saw it, Larry, but Russia just published photographs saying, we've just produced our own underwater drone. And Russia has really good relationships with the Iranians. So I guarantee you that if Russia produced an underwater drone, the Iranians are producing an underwater drone. And if the Iranians produced it, the Houthi have it. And so we're going to be sitting there going, shoot down missile, shoot down missile, shoot down missile. Holy shit, bad word again, gotta watch out. Got 20 underwater drones coming at me It's over, ladies and gentlemen. We lost a carrier. 5,000 Americans are dead. This is the reality of the carrier battle group. It's a legacy system going back to World War II that has no application in modern warfare whatsoever. America has been exposed as literally the empty shell that we are. It's not so much about the Red Sea. The Strait of Hormuz has just been guaranteed. We just lost the Strait of Hormuz because the whole idea of the Strait of Hormuz was the perception that America could do something. Well, that's been exposed as a lie. So the Iranians are empowered. The Saudis and the UAEs going, I think it's time we have to rethink our strategic relationships here because America can't defend anything. The whole aspect of what America was doing with power projection was the potential of action that creates deterrence. We don't have the potential of action. Where can we go, Larry? Where can we go? We can't go into Europe. We've proven that. Yeah, we can't defend the Red Sea against the Houthi. We think we want to hook and jab with the Chinese in the Pacific. Are we high? America's been exposed as a nation that spends $1 trillion a year on a military that can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, again, I had not really focused on the capability of the destroyers, their limited capability. It had never entered my mind to explore the concept of a expeditionary navy vice a forward-based navy. I made some assumptions that were completely wrong. And once you wake up to it, and again, I hadn't even thought about the Strait of Hormuz until you pointed it out. You're absolutely right. You know, the tactic is real simple. All any country has to do is assemble 300,000 drones capable of launching some sort of explosive device that can create damage on a maritime vessel, and then launch them in swarms. You're going to overwhelm the defense systems that the U.S. Navy has, and again, none of this is classified. It's all it's wide open, and then you can start sinking ships. Now, the Chinese. Everything the United States is doing out there off the coast of China is just ridiculous. The United States is trying to pick a fight that we can't even win. We can't even finish it. So, one of the articles I linked to into my piece was called "Rebalance the Fleet Toward Being a Truly Expeditionary Navy." That was eye-opening. And that was just published in September of 2023. So what we've got is the phrase I've used before. The United States has the most expensive military in the world. We've got one of the most expensive, least capable navies in the world. That's the shocker. And Scott, what do you think? Why do you think they're delaying? Yeah, I mean, at this point, Yemen has done everything that in normal times when we thought we had an expeditionary navy, we would have already launched. And we're not launching. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, because again, it's if you went in the ring with Mike Tyson, all right, you're expecting
I'd be out of breath from running.
Yeah, when he hits you, you're expecting to die. So imagine you're going in the ring with Mike Tyson, and oh God, and he just lines up and he hits you, and it's nothing. You're like, what the hell? Hits you again, nothing.
Yeah, you
hit him, he's hurting. You're like, I got this. See, America's Mike Tyson, but without the punch.
Yeah,
we've all hyped up. I likened it earlier. When I played football in college, all the linemen, I was a tight end, but I was originally a wide receiver, so I was a very small tight end. All the linemen, go in there and they bench press, and they all got the 300-pound club, the 350-pound club, the 400-pound club in terms of their bench press. I never got above 2 1/4, so I didn't earn any of the big T-shirts. But they're all out there. But it's like a guy that in college, is pumping up. He's got the 400-pound club, and now he comes back to the 10-year reunion, and he's got the 400-pound club T-shirt on there, and he's bringing people into the gym, and he's like, everybody's expecting him to lift 400 pounds, and he gets up to 250, and then he stops, and he starts talking and drinking water. You're like, well, where's 400? Can't do it anymore. That's America. Yeah. Everybody's expecting the 400-pound club, and you got a guy that can't bench 2.25 anymore. That's America. We don't want to act, because the second we act, we're exposed as a fraud, and all that deterrence goes away. All that, again, coming back to what Tony Blinken said, we have to deal with China from a position of strength. He just said that. But a position of strength means that we have to have the perception of capability. If we expose the fraud that we are with the Houthi, because Larry, again, mobile relocatable targets. That's a fancy way of saying mobile missiles. I did that during the Gulf War. That was my thing. Hunting scuds. We didn't kill a single one. Didn't know how to do it. And we haven't gotten any better. And so we're going to engage now in a very expensive air campaign against the Houthi, and we're not going to kill anything. They're going to keep launching, and it just exposes us as a fraud. And the whole idea of, this potential is to intimidate the Iranians and saying, don't begin with us because you think you have mobile missiles, but we have the American Navy that's very good at hunting. Oh, wait a minute. We just couldn't even deal with the Houthi. So I don't think we want to pull this trigger, because the moment we pull the trigger, any pretense of American capability is gone. Yeah. The other thing is, this coalition we've assembled ain't much of a coalition. It will fall apart instantaneously. And then the most important thing is, what happens when the Houthi take out the Saudi oil fields? Yeah. We don't have an answer to that. So I think, we've done a lot of bluffing. The smart thing for the United States at this point in time would be literally, look, we made a decision. We're going to let the Israelis kill as many Palestinians as possible. So the smart thing to do is just tell Israel, suck it up for a couple weeks, kill as many Palestinians as you want to, and then come January, you got to let the humanitarian goods, because all the Houthis say is, we'll stop the moment you let humanitarian goods come into Gaza. Mm-hmm. Stop the killing, let the humanitarian goods in, and we will open this baby up. But what we're going to do now is empower the Houthi to come up with different terms, because now the Houthi look around saying, wait a minute, we could ask for more. It's like doing one of those business negotiations, and you find out that, you low bid and you could have gone for more. The Houthi are finding out that they have more leverage than they possibly, and they're still backed by the Iranians now, who are going to be empowered. This is a game. I use that term all the time. It gets me in trouble, but it's a game-changing thing that's going on right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, and look, the other day, the Houthis, they shot down a Reaper drone, a $30 million ISR platform. And I'd love to know what they shot it down with, how much money they actually invested to shoot down a $30 million drone, but I'll be willing to bet it was less than $500,000, which that's a pretty good return on investment. Yeah. And, I think that has to also be weighing on the military planners' minds that as Scott noted, one, we don't have the staying power. Two, when we have to pull out, it's going to make us look weak. Three, we're not even sure we can put ISR safely up in the area to find out where they're located, so we know what we're shooting. So it's not an easy task, and these damn Houthis, boy, they just won't cooperate. They won't put together fixed military bases that we can easily target. How dare they? Don't they know about that international based rules order? They're ignoring the memo.
Right. With Operation Prosperity Guardian, as the United States is calling it, Scott and Larry, I think you're alluding to and directly stating this point altogether, that the U.S. military is pretty hollowed out. It's bark, no bite. But at the same time, this is quite the bark. This is a coalition of the willing. Last time that happened in this particular conflict, it was a Saudi-led U.S. from the rear coalition that did wage a pretty disastrous and very genocidal hell on Yemen. That's not happening right now. And you're saying that it's there's probably not going to be a major strike. So why then even form this coalition, and what will happen? Because can it just sit and play at war like they do in the South China Sea, for example? Is that what's going to happen? I mean, it does baffle my mind a bit that all of this trouble is being spent on something that has absolutely no bite.
Well, look at what they sent. Canada's contribution, 3 staff officers. Britain, they've sent a ship that hasn't been able to get out of dry dock. And they're really worried that it's going to break down while it's out there in the Red Sea, and they're going to be spinning around in a circle, not able to do anything. This thing's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah. Again, we just come down to, I'm going to huff and I'm going to puff and I'm going to blow your house down. But we can't blow anything down, and we're huffing and puffing. And if you're going to say you have a capability, you should be prepared to do it. You should be prepared to follow through. The United States, I think, look, politics is a funny thing too. And Biden, somebody may make the decision to initiate a bombing campaign just because we have to do something, but it will be disaster because we can't sustain. It's very expensive to bomb. I just want people to understand that, sorting out the number of aircraft that we're going to have to sort out with sustained sorties, the fuel, the wear and tear on the aircraft, the bombs, keeping that air carrier in play, shooting down all the Houthi drones are going to be coming at them. We're going to bankrupt ourselves, and we can't keep that force in play. Hopefully, we don't lose anything. But the real thing is that we're going to find out. The Houthi will find out that we can't beat them. And then the world realizes they can't beat them. This is why I think they probably won't do it. But politics is strange. We are entering the really silly season of American politics right now. And Joe Biden's sort of in a desperate, he lost Afghanistan. He's lost Ukraine. He's losing Israel. Now you got the Houthi, which means you're going to lose Iran, which means, and China's watching this too. Basically, what we're doing in Israel is, in what we've done with Ukraine is, in a very short period of time, we've gone from the world's preeminent superpower to the laughing joke. That doesn't mean we can't kill people. Of course we can kill people. We can kill a lot of people, but we can't win. And that's the thing. We can't close the deal anymore. Yeah.
Can you imagine being a Chinese intelligence analyst in February of 2022? And you were asked to assess the ability of the United States to produce and supply 155 millimeter artillery shells. I suspect that Chinese analyst, or the Russian analyst for that matter, would have projected a far greater capability with respect to what the United States could do. And that would have created some caution. And now, once they've seen with their own eyes that the United States can't do it, we can produce maybe in 1 year what Ukraine would fire in 1 month. And so all of a sudden these countries, it's got, it was a great analogy that we had built ourselves up like the great and powerful Wizard of Oz. And it turns out we're just a short little fat guy behind a curtain that a lot of the stuff we claim we can do, we can't do. And then the real sort of audacity is we've got U.S. military planners instructing the Ukrainians on how to fight a peer-to-peer war. Now, that's like going to some guy to learn how to shoot a rifle, and the guy's never shot a rifle. So you don't want to take rifle shooting instruction from somebody that's never shot a rifle. And, the reality is there's nobody in the world that's fought a peer-to-peer battle except for Russia now. And they've got ample experience doing it. And because when you read back one of the postmortems that the Washington Post did on why the counteroffensive failed, I was stunned that when they did the exercises beforehand, they did war gaming, tabletops. They left out the assumption about, well, you don't need fixed wing aircraft to provide close air support. And you don't need that rotary wing aircraft either that can also provide close air support as well as evacuate wounded for the battlefield. We'll just take those out of there. Hello? I mean, that's like saying, yeah, I'm going to go drive the car on the freeway, only I'm going to put on a blindfold, see how I do. You're going to crash. So, I mean, it's just, this is what the failure of the U.S. military across the board, it's not just one thing. It's a layered problem.
I don't think in my lifetime in Israel has been quite brutal in my lifetime in many different occasions. Has the public relations been so poor for Israel? I mean, even in these past incursions into Gaza, past bombing campaigns, even when there were massive numbers of Palestinians being killed, there was this justification, whether it was Hamas, terrorism, or whether it was just the spirit of Zionism that really held and stuck, especially in the West. And it was easy to kind of put Palestinians aside. It seems like the energy against Israel is stronger. And I think that's both cumulative over the years. More and more people, especially American Jews, getting kind of fed up with the war crimes. But also, I think it has to do with right now how Israel is being portrayed, and also how the United States is kind of not helping the situation. I wanted to play a video of your favorite politician, a little small clip, Lindsey Graham. I hope I don't send you to the hospital because I know you you despise Lindsey Graham. But I think he's kind of emblematic of what we are seeing in terms of the doubling down. And so I'm going to play a small clip for you to react to, because I think this is a huge problem for the United States and for Israel in terms of just how it's coming off in the world, and how I believe, and I want your reaction to this, how it is also contributing to the already existing weaknesses that you've pointed out to for Israel. But here we go.
Is there a threshold for you, and do you think there should be one for the United States government, at which the U.S. would say, let's hold off for a second in terms of civilian casualties? Is there a point at which you would start to question?
If somebody asked us after World War II, is there a limit what you would do to make sure that Japan and Germany don't conquer the world? Is there any limit what Israel should do to the people who are trying to slaughter the Jews? The answer is no. There is no limit. But here's what you need to do. Be smart. Let's try to limit civilian casualties the best we can. Let's put humanitarian aid in areas that protect the innocent. I'm all for that. But this idea that Israel has to apologize for attacking Hamas, who's embedded with their own population, needs to stop. The goal is to destroy Hamas. Hamas is creating these casualties, not Israel.
I don't think anyone's
civilian casualties.
So, your reaction, Scott?
Well, I just want to point out that Lindsey Graham is a lawyer, and he's a U.S. Air Force lawyer, which means that he has been versed in the laws of war. He knows, for instance, the principle of distinction. He knows what distinction is, and you can't drop a bomb. You can't put a round down range unless you've made a distinction between civilian and military. Now, yeah, if there's commingling, you've got issues. And then the concept of proportionality comes in. What's proportional? For instance, to take out one Hamas leader who wasn't, he was a regional, battalion commander, the guy that was supposedly at this refugee camp. There's no way America would ever allow the issue of proportionality to come in and say, we're going to put a bomb on target there that's going to kill 400 people to get one battalion commander. That's disproportional use of force, and that would be rejected. Any American who did that would be prosecuted for violating the laws of war. Lindsey knows this. He's better than that. But see, he's a politician. He's the slimiest kind of politician. He's a politician that's been pushing war forever. He operates totally outside the framework of law. He knows that everything he said there is wrong. There can be no collective punishment, Lindsey. You know that, Lindsey. You've been trained on that, but you are literally the worst kind of American. He is the worst American possible. If there's a way to strip people of their citizenship because of their failure to adhere to constitutional norms and values, then Lindsey should have his citizenship stripped, and then he should be tarred and feathered and marched off to wherever the hell we send, failed Americans. But no, he's horrible. He's useless, but he's playing to a base. It's the same base that Nikki Haley's playing to, or Vivek. I mean, did you see that video clip where we're going to put 100 Hamas heads on stakes? Hey, that ain't how we operate, buddy. I know you're just an entrepreneur. I know you made your money, fraudulently peddling pharmaceuticals. But we don't cut off heads in the U.S. military and put them on spikes and hanging out there. That's a war crime. Marines got in trouble, rightfully so, for peeing on dead Taliban in Afghanistan. You can't desecrate the dead, boss. You're never going to be president of the United States. You just disqualified yourself right there because you're a war criminal in the making. So is Nikki Haley. Every word she says out there about tweeting is all about collective punishment, no concept of distinction, proportionality. What gets me is Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley and all these other people sat there and they were citing the law of war, verse by verse about Russia and Ukraine, the Battle of Mariupol. This is indiscriminate collective punishment. There's no distinction between, when actually, and again, I do know the law of war. When I studied the Battle of Mariupol, and I have by speaking to a lot of people who were there on the ground, looking at the evidence, the Russians actually carried out a textbook example on how to adhere to the law of war in the most difficult of situations. They lost a lot of guys in Mariupol they didn't need to lose because they didn't want to stand back and level a building with civilians in it. They actually assaulted forward to gain control of the basement to evacuate the civilians under fire before they went back in and cleared the building by hand. Again, under the assumption that somewhere upstairs there might be other civilians that they don't want to kill. They didn't go in there in Mariupol and level buildings. In Bakhmut, it was different. In Bakhmut, the civilian population had already fled. And so the buildings where the Ukrainians were in, there were no civilians there. And so now you can drop a bomb, put the building down, which they did. But in Mariupol, where there was a significant civilian population, the Russians ran a textbook operation adhering to the laws of war. Nothing about what Israel is doing today is textbook. And yet Russia was called out by everybody as being a major violator, gross violator of international law and all that stuff. The Israelis, on the other hand, the Americans, we're not even trying to pretend that Israel is adhering to the law of war. We're basically just saying the law of war doesn't matter when it comes to Israel. And that sadly is the truth. No law has ever mattered when it comes to Israel. International law doesn't matter. The Security Council has passed resolutions. The General Assembly has passed resolutions, and Israel ignores every single one of them.
Yeah. And the United States stands right by, just continuously rejecting resolution after resolution. And you see the split quite clearly with regard to where nations and countries stand on this, with China and Russia supporting humanitarian assistance, supporting an actual ceasefire, while the United States and its vassal states continue to obstruct, despite the fact that now they're kind of all have their hands and their thumbs up there, what's trying to figure out how to get out of a bad situation. Because as I said, the public relations, and as you intimated, the public relations around this are incredibly bad. Most of even the mainstream war machine lovers, usually Joy and Reed tends to be on that side. But it seems like the tone and the mood is shifting here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know, Danny, you want me to keep these answers short, but there ain't nothing simple in life. I think people need to understand that the U.S. wasn't always, bought and owned by the Israeli lobby. There was a time when we actually had a very big Arab lobby, the Arabists in the State Department, in the Pentagon, etc. There was a time when, in the lead up to the Gulf War back in 1990, Paul Wolfowitz got so mad at at the Israeli government that he basically, hung up the phone and then had his secretary call and give them a number to the White House switchboard and said, call when you're serious about talking about, settlements. But until then, we don't want to talk to you. Could you imagine a White House doing that today, hanging up on a prime minister and telling him to stick it where the sun don't shine? There was pushback. The name Jonathan Pollard, does that mean anything to anybody nowadays? He's, of course, the American Jew who spied on behalf of Israel. And didn't spy in a little way. He stole the crown jewels. The crown jewels is a big book of all the frequencies that we monitor in the world, and how important they are. What information's on it? Are they encrypted? Have we solved the encryption? That's it. If you got the crown jewels, you'll know that we're listening to your phone call, you're listening to this, and then you'll stop talking. He took that and gave it to the Israeli government. And then the Israeli government, because they're such good friends of America, sold it to the Soviets, who sat there and said, thank you very much. And we literally overnight lost billions of dollars of surveillance capability, because everything we thought we were doing, now the Soviets knew. If they kept it going, they were passing us disinformation. If they shut it down, we didn't know where they shut it down to, and now we're going blind. So Jonathan Pollard did that on behalf of the state of Israel. That created a lot of animosity in a big section of the American government, and so there was always this pushback. And at that time, the pro-Israeli lobby had to become very aggressive and very innovative in their tactics. When I was running around trying to get Congress not to support this war in Iraq, I would go to, the senator's office, knock on the door. I'd get a 45-minute meeting, sit there and talk. And as I came out, there's a group of AIPAC guys. I knew them because when I resigned, they tried to recruit me. They wanted me to speak at the AIPAC conference. They offered me bribes. They offered me the whole thing to join their team. All I'd have to do is say that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Well, I ain't going to lie. And, even if you offer me $6 million, which they did, I ain't going to lie. So there went that deal. But they're bird dogging me going in, and they're reminding everybody, senators, congressmen alike, will primary you. That's their weapon, the primary. They write checks, but so do other people. What they can do is primary you. And a primary is a kiss of death. Primary isn't you running against a Democrat or Republican. A primary is they putting somebody up within your own party and putting pressure on the normal funding channels to drop you. You have to burn through all your money to now do a primary you weren't planning on doing, because you're building a war chest to run for election against the opposing political party, and you've burned yourself out. It's going to be a dirty campaign. All your dirty laundry is going up, and your other party opponents sitting there taking notes, and they're going to crush you in the general election. Primary is the kiss of death. That's what AIPAC does better than anybody else. And they go, we're going to primary you. And the long story short is, eventually, the Arabists were annihilated. The pro-Zionist lobby won. They were victory. They won. They own. This isn't anti-Semitic when I say this. Please don't interpret it. It's just a statement of fact. They own everything. And it's been a strategy that they've played. They own Congress. Benjamin Netanyahu brags about it. There's videos about him saying how he owns Congress. He bought them all. They all sing for him. He's a man of such arrogance and hubris. He came during a presidential election and spoke to Congress in a way to promote, Barack Obama's opponent. No one does that, but he did it because he doesn't care, because they literally have a blank check. Nobody held him. Nobody in Congress said, get the hell out of my country. I would have. That's why I would never get elected to Congress. But if Benjamin Netanyahu came to my house, the people's house, stood up and articulated against a sitting president during a re-election, I would have jumped out of my seat, rushed the stage, snapped his neck, and thrown his dead body outside, because that's what you do to people who interfere with your elections. We sit there and go, the Russians interfere. Hell no. Nobody interferes in an American election like the Israelis do. They have bought everybody in Congress. They own Congress. But worse than that, and this is where Ms. Reed's statement comes, they own the media. AIPAC owns, and again, this isn't the Jews. AIPAC. Look, I was there. I told you, when I resigned, I was recruited. They came at me hard from everywhere. They come out of the woodworks. I'd be doing a hit at NBC, MSNBC, funny enough, 6-month contract I had with them. And the producers come up and they hand me their APAC cards. Hey, Scott, we need to talk. Hey, Scott, we need to talk. Hey, Scott, let's have lunch. Hey, Scott. Hey, Scott. Hey, Scott. It is the Jewish lobby, not the Jewish. Sorry, that's anti-Semitic. That one you can hit me on. Okay. It's the pro-Israeli lobby. It's not the Jewish lobby. That's a horrible thing. I apologize for that. It's the Israeli lobby, the pro-Israeli. They are everywhere. They own everything. They run everything, and they all conspire together. They spy on behalf of Israel. There again, go back and look at what happened around the time when I resigned in the late 1990s, early 2000s. There was a scandal where a guy named Rosen, I think, in APAC, was conspiring with guys in the Department of Defense to get classified documents out so that he could hand them to this Israeli diplomat, the same diplomat that I worked with when I was at the United Nations. He was my cutout to Israeli intelligence, except I had permission to do that. But it turns out he was also a cutout between APAC and all that. The Israelis spy on America nonstop, and it was open book, everything. And what I'm trying to get at is, for most of this century, from 2000, especially after 2001, the global war on terror, the whole thing, until today, Israel's gotten a free ride. They don't even have to work for it. They don't. It's a free ride. All APAC has to do is open up a conference, put up a sign, and look at how everybody runs to APAC. Everybody got to speak at APAC, got to speak at APAC, got to speak at APAC. It's embarrassing. And literally, APAC doesn't hide it anymore. They are literally a front for Israel, but we're not allowed to call them that, or it's anti-Semitic. We're not allowed to say APAC needs to register as a foreign agent. No, anti-Semitic. APAC is an Israeli front. They are literally buying the United States Congress. And if you're an American, I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, Jew, agnostic, atheist, I don't care. This should insult you that a foreign power has bought the Congress. Look at the new Speaker of the House. First order of business, ladies and gentlemen, when America is falling apart at the seams, homeless, you name it, we got problems. First order of business, I'm going to pass money for Israel. What the hell? That means that America is not even number two. Americans are like not even on the front list. So Israel didn't have to work anymore. They aren't bird dogging people anymore. They took everything for granted. And they were on this smooth path to accomplish everything they wanted through the Abrams Accord. So they stopped working. They got lazy. They got soft. And then October 7th came in. And this rage that's been bottled up by people who felt so helpless, because if you were pro-Palestinian, and Danny, I think you're pro-Palestinian, but you tell me, you felt a sense of hopelessness and helplessness as the Abrams Accord took in, that nobody was advocating for them.
I think most people, as you said earlier too, in terms of this issue in general, it was not really in the conversation, even right after the March of Return, when like kids were getting shot at for like peacefully going up to the gate, like by the even that didn't create the kind of, I think, energy that we're seeing now in response to what Israel is doing. I think there was this hopelessness around the Palestinian cause, definitely, and I think Israel's Saudi Arabia normalization would have been a nail in that. It would have been, because I mean, we don't have to go into the itty bitty details, but we know that Saudi Arabia is a huge player in that region. For that to happen would be catastrophic.
And so now what happens is nobody anticipated October 7th. So there wasn't a front loading of the Israeli propaganda machine. Israel was already in tatters because of Netanyahu's evisceration of basic law, and trying to take control of the judiciary, you're moving it as an independent agency. And so they're already on the defensive. You have a whole bunch of people going, well, Israel's really a democracy, but even the people that advocated for democracy are going, well, Benjamin Netanyahu's sort of destroyed this Israel. So the PR machine is falling in on itself, starting to argue against itself. There's a debate against themselves, etc. Boom. They don't have a plan. The whole world, they lost the script. It got out of control. The whole world's in the street and they don't know what to do. And so this is where you find out the true nature of people. When you strip away the pretense, when you strip away the scripting, the acting, and it just comes down, they're standing in front of you, buck naked, and they have to make a decision, you find out who they are. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the reality of political Zionism, because that's what modern Israel is. It's not a democracy. It's not a nation that wants to live in peace and harmony with its neighbors. It's about the Israel that Benjamin Netanyahu has played a large role in creating. The Israel that assassinated Yitzhak Rabin is the ugly face of political Zionism, where they treat Arabs as animals. They view everybody as subhuman, and they don't care about the law. They will do everything necessary to achieve their objectives. This is the reality, and it's crude. I mean, look at the UN ambassador, the Israeli UN ambassador, how he is disgracing the memory of the Holocaust by putting on that yellow star, by parading around, by doing it. It's because they don't know what to do. They don't have a plan. So the only thing they can do is be honest for the first time about who they truly are.
Chào mừng tất cả các bạn đến với kênh YouTube của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn cho các bạn móc một cái khoản theo bấm cánh bạn thoi như thế này. Ở đây thì mình có sử dụng sợi tông Việt Nam. Kích thước sợi là 1.0 mm và kim móc là 2.5 mm. Chất liệu của các loại sợi này thì khá là mềm, mỏng sợi và đanh sợi, cho nên là nó cũng ít co giãn như các bạn. Các bạn cân nhắc quá trình chọn loại sợi phù hợp với lại các sản phẩm đang móc. Các đổi của một cái sản phẩm khác thì một loại sợi khác thì cân nhắc đổi cho mình kim size nha. Mình đang sử dụng ở đây là kim size 2.5. Các bạn có thể giảm kim xuống còn 2.0 hoặc 1.75. Kèm theo đó thì kích thước sản phẩm nó sẽ nhỏ lại nha. Các bạn có thể phối màu sắc khác. Ở đây thì mình phối ngẫu nhiên màu hồng thôi. Các bạn có thể sử dụng đúng màu xanh lá cây để làm cho ra màu của cỏ bóng lá nha. Chuẩn bị cho mình cái bóng và kim phối lên ha. Bây giờ theo dõi video hướng dẫn của mình nha. Để bắt đầu nha, các bạn tạo cho mình cùng tròn mai thuật. Đây là một bình đưa kim vào trong vòng tròn. Móc trên mình là tổng cộng 16 vị đơn nha các bạn. Kéo lên khép chặt vòng tròn nha. Đưa kim qua cái chân đơn đầu tiên ở đây. Thực hiện cho mình bây giờ kết thúc. Tiếp với cái hàng thứ nhất. Lên một quấn nha. Đưa kim vào lại cái chân nó bắt vào một cái đơn. Các bạn lên cho mình một quấn. Để lên 4 lần. Bỏ qua cho mình một cái chân kế tiếp vậy. Kim qua hai chân lên một giống như vậy cho mình. tiếp tục. Như vậy được gọi là một bức tường nha các bạn. Móc thêm cho mình một lượng tường. Sau đó các bạn tại đây các bạn lên cho mình 2 vân. Tiếp tục bổ sung mình một vân.